The errors of Judge McMaster's decision today to evict Toronto mayoral candidate Kevin Clarke on the grounds that Mr. Clarke broke a mediation agreement that says he would not videotape staff or employees of Capreit Property Management unless it's for a legal proceeding. Capreit produced evidence that says the staff were videotaping Mr. Clarke. So they allege that Mr. Clarke was videotaping them, but the only evidence that was produced was the evidence of Capreit showing a videotape of Mr. Clarke in the lobby playing with his phone. So what you're saying is that Mr. Clarke is not allowed to make phone calls, Mr. Clarke is not allowed to take a photo, Mr. Clarke is not allowed to take a video, and Mr. Clarke is not allowed to use technology. But yet, Capreit Property Management, its staff and employees are allowed to photograph and videotape Mr. Clarke? Well, that is the evidence the judge used to make his decision, was a videotape shown by Sadiq Ahmed that showed Mr. Clarke in the lobby playing with his phone, but then Mr. Clarke showed a videotape of him entering the office and what happened in the office. That videotape we will attach to this video. Now that allegedly happened on the 28th. So anything that happened before the 28th when Mr. Clarke picked up that check is in the process of that legal matter. Mr. Clarke went to the office on the 26th. They told him the 27th. The next time Mr. Clarke went, they have to call their lawyers. And then the next day, Mr. Clarke picked up the check. If Capreit said Mr. Clarke was in the office on the 29th, the 30th, the 31st, whatever, after the 28th, then there was possibly a case. But Capreit wants you to believe that Mr. Clarke is some deranged, mentally ill guy who is just running around taking photos and pictures of individuals. And the judge excluded the City of Toronto report that showed Mr. Clarke filed all these maintenance, safety, and security issues with the City of Toronto. And if Mr. Clarke was not allowed to videotape or photograph all the work that was done at 4000 Lawrence Avenue, from the pool where CBC came, from the children's playground that was infested with glass, from the new parking lot, from the new railing, from the new garage, from the new sidewalk, from the new front roundabout, from the plaster in the hallways that's fixing the busted walls, from the electrical outlet on the 10th floor that was fixed, from the elevator that was a danger to people. All those complaints were filed with the City of Toronto by Mr. Clarke taking photos and videos and supplying the supporting document. So for Judge McMaster to rule against Mr. Clarke because he went into the office and took a videotape is a travesty of justice and a misinterpretation of any law by Judge McMaster. And also for Judge McMaster to make this ruling that Mr. Clarke, it says no videotaping, your mediation order means no videotaping. When Mr. Clarke picked up the check on the 28th, anything before that when he went into the office is a legal matter, and it is safe to assume that when he picked up the check on the 28th was because other days before it was not ready. It is a disgrace that you would attempt to evict someone who filed an extremely large amount of complaints through photos and videotapes with the City of Toronto for taking photos and videotapes. What makes this another travesty is that when you walk into the office, Capreit staff, as well as Mr. Clarke, and all in the office are being videotaped. The Capreit worker testified that a contractor didn't like being videotaped. But hold it, he's being videotaped by the office by Capreit. So is it okay for a corporation to videotape the public, but for the public not to videotape the corporation when they're negligence? We ask the people to speak out against Capreit Property Management and ask for the Landlord and Tenants Social Justice Tribunal to review this order and dismiss the case by Capreit. God is with us, and have a beautiful and wonderful day, and we will fix housing in Ontario, right? I do believe the Social Justice Tribunal is doing a pretty good job. I just believe the Judge McMaster made a grave error and a grave injustice for you to order someone to the streets of Toronto for photographing and videotaping a legal matter of him picking up a check is a disgrace. God bless.